fellow monsters, fiends, and fans of the Halloween haunting experience, especially those of you looking to become a haunt slider. Yeah, the guys with the metal bits on the gloves and the shoes, and they scrape across the ground and get amazing scares at Halloween events. If you've ever wondered where to get all that information to do it yourself, here you are. This is Sliders Recaps. I'm T, the original Ghost Town Slider. I was the very first person to put the metal bits on gloves and shoes and get those scares at Knott's Halloween Haunt way back in the day. If you're ready to learn how to be a slider, this is the place to be. If you think hearing the word slider means I'm going to talk about hamburgers or some sci-fi show from the 90s or, I don't know, baseball, you're way off. It's this. Roll the title sequence. Now, this series is primarily going out to those of you who want to try this for the first time. Maybe you want to work at one of the big Halloween events at a theme park or something someday. Maybe you run some sort of local haunt and you just want to add this in as a new scare. Or maybe you're just somebody who wants to try it in his own driveway on Halloween night. Everybody's welcome. This first episode, I'm going to go over the very basics, all right? What do I wear? What is the gear that is necessary to do this thing? I'll cover a basic slide from start to finish. Running, dropping, getting up, getting out. And I'll have a safety lesson I call the Scare Principle. Well, it's not really scary. It's, SCARE. It's an acronym. We'll get to that later. As the series moves along, each piece of gear is going to get its own show as a spotlight so that we can go over prices, where to get it, how to build it, or how to put the pieces on and off of it. Focusing in on safety and application. Now, because this is a series, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe, like, and share, and hit that notification button because there's going to be more videos as we go along. And I don't want you to miss a single minute of information. Some of you veterans out there might pick up a tip or two as well. Who knows? If those of you watching this that are super beginners and you want to know what this is all about, I've gone through the web and I've found some clips of some of the amazing pros out there, from some of the great sliding teams, and I've put them together in a little compilation, and I think you should check it out. Roll it, Steve!
I've seen people throw up.
I've seen people wet their pants,
Pass out.
fall down.
Fall down and cry.
Get all those into one scare, you win.
You win.
looks like so much fun. You know why? Because it's fun. And you know who can do this? Almost anyone. We have little kids, the kids of the sliders, that have grown up watching mom and dad slide around. Now they want to do it. They'll come out to our practice area and they'll have little tiny pads and gloves on and they'll slide around. It's pretty amazing. It's really hard to believe sometimes that just some guy putting on these crazy gloves and shoes and whatnot and making this noise has expanded to almost every Halloween event and gone global practically. The guys from China in there. It's crazy. You can do it too, as long as you have the right gear. Which leads me to the question, what do I wear? Let's begin with knee pads. Gotta have knee pads, right? Now, there's lots of different brands, lots of different kinds. You can spend anywhere between $10 and $140. I have two different pairs. I have this pair, which I bought for about $25, and I have this pair that I found at a swap meet for $5. Are they pretty? No. Do they work? You bet. Price isn't that much of a factor as long as you set them up correctly. Moving on. Now, along with your knee pads, you're going to need these recaps, plastic recaps, sliders recaps.
Yay!
These go over top of the main cap on your knee pads and keep it from getting all scraped up. These take all the damage. They get broken, you take it off, you buy another one, you stick it on top. You're gonna need a stack of these because you're gonna be shredding these things. I would highly suggest something that we call gaskets. It's basically just a knee brace. Mine happen to be padded with a gel pad on the front, so it's like a secondary knee pad underneath my knee pads, because you are falling on the ground over and over and over again, and injuries are out there. So you have to be able to protect yourself. Now, just as important as the knee pads are the gloves, right? Now, slider gloves. This is the very first pair of slider gloves I ever built. These were built in 1988. Ooh, so long ago. And these were the first ones with the washers on the palms and these metal tips on the fingers, which I made out of what are called plumber's tape or strapping tape. It's just metal strapping, and I bent and made all these little finger pieces to glide across the ground as I moved across. Those are the very first gloves, and those led to these. These are more of a standard glove that people use now. This is a slider glove. Some people call them clicker gloves or clacker gloves. I've also heard them called that. And sometimes people use them just to make noise and bang them together. But me, I use them as a gliding surface across the ground. Next, not everybody uses these, but elbow pads. Always a great idea. Just get that elbow pad down around your elbow, and then when you're sliding along, if you bump into something, person, trash can, wall, whatever, it's gonna save you a lot of mystery bruises, let me tell you. Duct tape. Lots and lots of black duct tape. This holds on your knee pads, keeps it from sliding down. It fixes your shoes, it fixes your gloves, you can fix your shirt, you can fix anything with this. Have several rolls of black duct tape on board. Trust me, you will use it. And finally, shoes. You're gonna have to have slider shoes, almost always with metal or plastic across the toe. But generally metal seems to be the way to go. I use a big metal bracket. Other people take steel toes out of a steel-toed shoe and mount those on the front. These are your rudders in the back that kind of steer you, they slow you down, and they help you stand up. And that is pretty much all the gear you're gonna need. Now, there's other little bitty parts, glove things and knee pad things and little nitpicky stuff. I'll be going over that in each individual video of how to adjust things like sleeves and pants and whatever to fit these parts so that you can move comfortably and safely, all right? Well, now that you've seen all the gear, let's get outside so I can show you how it's done. All right, it's time to put on the gear. But before we get started, something else has to happen first. Now, if you talk to any slider who's been around a while, or a semi-retired slider like myself, and you say, what's the one thing you would have told your younger self before you got started? And the answer is always the same two things. Number one, stretch. You have to stretch your muscles before you do this. It's all falling on the ground and getting back up again in wind sprints all night long. Your legs and back are going to get a major workout. Therefore, you have to find a way to stretch. Now, I'm not a personal trainer. I don't know what will stretch you versus me, so I'm sure somewhere out here in the YouTubes you can find a stretching video that will work for you. Second is practice. You have to get in practice before you can just put this on and fall on the ground. It doesn't really work that way. If you can find a nice big smooth patch of concrete and get in practice, I don't know, once a week or so, I'm sure you'll be fine by the time you get to October. Now, a lot of the guys that do the stunt shows where they're doing jumps and flips and all kinds of crazy things, those guys start practice in February and March. So they're ready for the summer conventions, the haunt conventions, and they're going to be doing shows and performances there. If you're not going to be doing that, well, you could probably wait until June, July and start getting going. But you know what? Some people do this all the time just because it's fun and it's something to do. It's entirely up to you. But stretch and practice. Got it? Let's gear up. Welcome to Chapman Sports Park in Orange County, California. Sliders from all over the area, from the theme parks and even the local haunts, come to this place to learn and practice the craft of sliding. And that's why I've come here today to teach you how to do a basic slide. All right, I got all my gear on. I'm ready to go for a basic slide. It's just a quick run, you drop, a little bit of a slide, and you're back up again. And that is your basic slide. Good night, everybody.
Wait, that's it? That's all the information you got?
Oh no, there's lots more. Here, let's back up Mr. Slider to the beginning. And now, you've found your target and you're ready to go. You start your run. It's only going to be, honestly, 3 or 4 steps. This is more. Now, when you drop in, you want to drop in nice and soft. Don't bang your knees on the ground, maybe one knee at a time. Get your hands out to get them on the ground for control and to get that scraping sound. Once you find an end, just step up and step out or just slide to a stop. And that is your basic slide. I think Buzz Lightyear said it best. It's falling with style. Now, a lot of things can happen between the run up and the stand up. And this leads us to the safety portion known as the SCARE principle. Little acronym I came up with, SCARE. This stands for Surface, Commitment, Adjustment, Recovery, and Exit. And to get all the lowdown of our very first letter, let's head back to the Chapman Sports Park. Now, you might be wondering why the sliders came here to learn how to slide. Well, it used to be an old roller hockey rink till they tore the walls down. And once they did, it just left a huge, open, very smooth patch of concrete, perfect for sliding. Which leads me to my very first letter of the SCARE principle, which is S for surface. Let's talk about surface. Now, the ground you're going to be sliding on needs to be relatively smooth, but with some grit to it. That way you get the sound from your gloves and your knee pads. You get the scrape, and that's the SCARE. Now, most slides, if you're going to scare people, are very short because it's down, noise, up, out, or get up and chase them around or whatever it is you want to do. All those are fun. In most theme parks, they use a slurry painted ground, which is kind of smooth, especially with all the guests walking on it thousands of times a day over the year, and they get a better surface. So you at home, doing a home or local haunt, you're going to be using parking lots and streets and sidewalks and maybe your own driveway. Each of these is designed with more texture to get grip for tires and shoes. If you want to make the ground a little more forgiving, you may want to apply something to it to make that a little better. We've tried lots of different things that make it more slick. However, it creates a hazard for your guests. They will also slip in it and can get hurt, and you don't want that. You also have a hard time stopping if it looks like you're going to crash into somebody because it's so slick. The only thing we've found that works really well is skateboard wax or curb wax. does increase your ability to slide on a more rough surface, but it does have some drawbacks. And for those, we'll go out to our roving reporter at the Chapman Sports Park. Take it away, T.
If you're going to try and use skateboard wax, it will certainly smooth out the area you're using. However, if you look behind me, this is what happens when you apply it multiple times, and then the knee pads and the shoes and the gloves over time, it's gonna leave behind some marks. So before you start sliding your own private driveway or on a public street or wherever, be advised that this can happen. You can leave behind very difficult to remove, if not permanent, marks.
Be careful that you are clearing the area of things like rocks and sticks and things of that nature that could, get caught up in your gear or fly up in your face. Also, make sure you are looking out for big cracks in the cement, big cracks in the asphalt. Those can get caught on your gloves or your gear and can destroy it. You can shred your gloves, you can break off pieces of your knee pads, as well as injure you. You can get jammed fingers and blow out your knees and things of that nature. You do that, sliding's over for the season, or maybe forever, who knows. So try to avoid that at all costs. Be very aware of what you're sliding on. Don't just run haphazard into an area you are not familiar with. This leads us to the next letter in our SCARE principle. Stop it! Which is C for commitment or choice. This is where you're gonna pick out who you're gonna scare. Now, Gotta Catch 'Em All was great for Pokemon, but for this game, it's gotta be a little more selective. You are gonna die if you try to scare every single person with a slide. You gotta look for the ones that look like they're the most tense, like they're really gonna jump if you get a good scare. Now, sometimes that can even mean scaring the big guy that looks like he's unscarable. Now, you go in and you go after that guy, and you get him, even just a flinch, his friends will never let him forget it. So, always remember, you can go for the people that look unscarable. Jumping in after really small kids and stuff, that's a little sketchy. So that's gonna be up to you. I wouldn't do it, maybe a little scare. Just be sure to pace yourself. It's gonna be a long hunt. If you're just doing it one night, might be able to get a little more crazy. But your hands and your knees the next day, they won't like you very much. Just try to make sure you're pacing it out and giving yourself some time. Also remember that once you jump out there and get the scare, everybody in front and behind those people, they've seen you. So the surprise factor is gone. So it's always best to get out, get a scare, come back, wait for a few people to go by, and then go out for the next one. All right, you've made your choice, and now you're gonna go in for the scare. Once you get to this point of the slide right here, this is where the rubber meets the road. A lot of things can happen as you're traveling towards the ground. Somebody can jump in front of you. Somebody can push a stroller in front of you. Maybe you thought they were gonna run, but they froze. Maybe you think they were gonna freeze and they ran. This is where you have to make your adjustments. You have to decide, can I stop or get out of the way of this person? There are multiple ways for you to come to a stop. You can sit down on the ground. You can plant your foot just like this. You can lay down either on your stomach or just on your arms, try to come to a stop. You can roll out of the way. You can pop up on both feet or just step up immediately and just run out to the side. Or just slowly come to a stop. Now the R for recovery is the biggest safety thing on this whole list, simply because you're gonna run into somebody. You ask any slider who's been doing this for any length of time, somebody has run into another person. It's happened to me numerous times. I'm sure it's happened to everyone. Now maybe they come out of their blind spot, you couldn't see it, freezes in place, and they don't know what to do. Now once you've seen all these other ways to try and stop, if there's just no way to do that, one of the best possible things you can do is called wrapping up your guest. You've got to get your arms all the way around their legs or their waist and try to stop your forward progress.
The most important thing to remember when wrapping up a guest is never go towards their knees. If you hit their knees sideways, you could blow out an ACL, cause a really bad knee injury. What you want to make sure you're doing when you're wrapping the guest is to wrap your arms around their waist or their stomach area.
Hopefully that will hold them up. If that's not going to happen and it looks like they're going to fall, you've got to be able to turn the guest so that they fall on you and they do not fall on the hard ground. And finally, exit. You got in, now you got to get out. You can do it multiple ways. To end a slide, sometimes I'll just plant my foot and step up, as you saw in the video. You can just pop up in the middle of the slide. You can just keep sliding past them and go until you come to a stop. All of those are great. But the whole point of this scare is get in and get out. If you slide right up to their face and jump up, there's a very high percentage chance you could get hurt. A lot of people's natural reaction to a scare is punching and kicking, so you don't want to get hit. So please make sure you're going across the crowd, not at the crowd. If you are going towards the crowd, make sure it's at an angle, like you're going towards them, but towards their left or towards their right, so you will go past them. Go through, whoosh, get the scare, and get out. Once again, survey your area. Make sure it's clear. Look out for trash cans, curbs, walls, rocks, sticks, anything like that that can be in your way. That's the stuff that's gonna hurt you, not necessarily the people. Don't forget to stretch, don't forget to practice, and don't forget you are going to leave marks on the ground. Make sure you have permission first, all right? And that's about it. Now hit that subscribe button, because coming soon, I'll have a video about the history of how this all got started, and we will go over the gloves, how to build those fingertips and such. Thank you for watching this far, and I'll see you next time on Sliders Recaps.